Well, good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. This is the Dependable Engines Association webinar series. Today we'll be speaking with Tim Cormier, who's Vice President of Customer Support, previous manager of the Advantage program. And Tim will be giving us a presentation. But prior to that, if Tim could just give us a little insight. A lot of people like to know where you began in your career and kind of your little bit of your career path. I think it'd be very interesting.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks, Jim. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here and be able to talk about GTF Advantage. Again, it's a fantastic engine. This has been a fantastic program, and it's been a pleasure to work with everybody on that team. I've been with Pratt and Whitney for 25 years. As Jim mentioned, I'm now the Vice President of Customer Support. I came over to customer support probably about six months ago now, and have the privilege of being able to visit customers across the globe and really support what we do here and support everybody here at Pratt Whitney on our product. I've been with the company again for 25 years, started as a performance engineer, just like you, Jim. Worked for about 5-6 years in engineering, moved on to program management. At that point, I moved over to aftermarket operations. Spent some time overseas in a number of different roles. Came back to the United States, and then since then I've had the honor of working on the NEO program, early entry into service, as well as the GTF Advantage program.
It just seems amazing. Behind us here, of course, is the demo engine. And this first went to test in 2008 and first flew in 2009. So this old girl's been around.
Yeah.
It still has a variable nozzle on the end and other things we never went into service with. But we didn't know what we had, going on at that point with the engine. So you can come to the museum sometime if you would like and see this engine. It's right here. But then it's, we were talking a little bit before, it's just amazing. The gear turbofan first certified in December of 2014 and entered service in 2016. So pretty amazing how far we've come. And I don't know, you're going to talk a little bit about customers and how many we have so far, but there are quite a few gear turbofans out there, a lot of customers. And of course, it's grown to the 1500 and the 1900, which isn't under Tim's current. Well, it is. As a customer support vice president, you own everything.
Right.
Mature, gear turbofans.
That's right.
Everything. So you get a little bit of everything. Congratulations.
Thanks, Jim.
And from there, it's had a long history. So we'll hear more about the Advantage program in just 1 minute. But first, I'd just like to talk with you a little bit about the Dependable Engines Association, who sponsors these webinars. We try to do them every month. We have other ones coming up in the future that will deal with Amelia Earhart, who will go back and talk to some people about there trying to find her airplane. We're going to go and talk a little bit more about over in Finland, where they've brought up an old fighter with WASP engines on it. So we'll have that also. I'm going to try to get people together from the 777 program. That'll be interesting. Don't miss that one. And there'll be other things we'll do, maybe an aerodynamics course, but we'll see as we go forward here. Some more things coming, so keep your eyes open. It's a great association. We have social events once a month. And beyond that, we're really trying to share the passion and the interest behind Pratt Whitney. Mostly retired people. There are people who have joined the association, of course, who are current employees. You'll learn a lot, and you'll meet some new people. And with that said, we have a golf tournament coming up on September 18th. Registration is open. You'll be able to, there'll be a kickoff tee time at 11:30, and entry fee is $125. So have fun. You can see on there's a registration line there. You can click on that, and I don't know, and there's a QR code on top of this. So if you're good with QR codes, hit your camera and we'll be all set. Okay. So I'm going to turn this over to Tim, talking a little bit about the Advantage program. I may interrupt him through this, but we'll let him go through and get started on it. Tell us the advantages of the Advantage and just a little bit of history for you. The Advantage 70 was the first one to have an Advantage name.
That's right. I remember when you're a development program manager as well.
Right. So
a lot of the same war scars, I'm sure.
A little bit credit for that. Maybe Finkelstein, maybe Salmonini's, I don't know. But anyway, so we'll move on.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. So, just to start again, as I'm representing customer support, I do think it's notable to just mention what our entire commercial engines portfolio looks like. Certainly our company is riding on the back of our mature commercial engines. We still have 200 operators and over 10,000 engines in service. The maturity is fantastic, right? These engines have been out in the field for, in some instances, over 40 years, and we've accumulated more than 500 million hours of flight hours. And we've been able to take a lot of the learning that we've had in these products. We continue to learn every single day and read this into our latest platform, which for us are the GTF engines. And we talk about GTF Advantage. GTF Advantage is the newest model of engine that we'll have on the A320neo. But as you mentioned, right, the GTF program in general, the demo program was launched about 20 years ago. We went into service on the A320neo in 2016. And we actually just today, we've also announced on LinkedIn, you may see it, that we're celebrating 10 years in service with the A220, the Airbus A220, which used to be the C series.
Right. So that's great. That's great to see that. And I know that you guys work a lot of commonality between the engines as much as you can, right?
Yeah, that's right. And we'll talk a little bit about that in terms of the way that we were able to read across the learnings on all of our platforms as we work to mature the technology that we have in GTF Advantage.
And just one other thing I'd like to mention about the mature commercial engine fleet, that's the fleet that's really paying the bills right now.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So aftermarket is super important.
Right. I mean, when you look at our portfolio overall, I mean, the investment that we've been making for developing technologies on the GTF side, in some instances, it's a little bit of a drag on the company, right? As we go through that natural development cycle, paying the bills really comes from our mature commercial engines. And in fact, if you look on the next chart, you can kind of see where we are relative to our portfolio on GTF versus where we are on the V2500. Just recently, within the last year or so, have we overtaken where we are in terms of the V2500 fleet, right? So the V2500 fleet still has over 25 aircraft in service today. We have 2,800 aircraft on the GTF platform. So we're starting to see that shift in terms of our overall portfolio, but certainly our mature commercial engines are a very important piece of that. Fleet's going to continue to grow. By the time GTF Advantage enters into service, which we're expecting that will happen through Airbus later on this year, we'll be right on the cusp of growing the GTF fleet to about the size that the V2500 was when it reached its peak.
So that's good. So you're getting the improvements out there. That's an important thing. And the fleet grows beyond the V2500, which was really pioneering us on the A320.
That's right.
If you think about it, right?
That's right. Yeah, and when you think about the size of our commercial engine fleets and large commercial engines, I mean, certainly the JT8D was the best-selling platform that we had, followed by the V2500. The amount of backlog that we have on the GTF-powered fleets, I mean, we can certainly see line of sight to overtaking that in the future. So the GTF Advantage engine, I mean, I'll give you a little bit about the history. When, as you mentioned, we went into service on the 1100 program back in 2016, and when we launched the program even earlier than that, probably in the 2012, 2013 timeframe, we had already been contemplating with Airbus the need for, at the time, it was a performance improvement program. As we worked through early entry into service and we continued to have those discussions with Airbus, we started to change our thinking a little bit as to what this GTF platform, GTF Advantage platform would look like. I think we probably coined the term GTF Advantage in the 2019, 2020-ish timeframe. And rather than just being the typical performance improvement program where we're targeting additional fuel burn on the order of 1% to 2%, we're looking at some other benefits as well. Now, certainly, we were experiencing our durability issues early into the program, so improving our time on wing was important for us. We're looking at additional markets, so additional thrust. So flat-rated thrust, GTF Advantage is capable of 34,000 pounds compared to 33,000 on the base motor today. But one of the key benefits is our ability to provide additional payload capacity at altitude. High altitude airports, whether it be in China or South America, it opens up additional markets for us.
I think that's amazing that just on that high altitude thrust, I did a little work beforehand, believe it or not. And I mean, Denver is like 5,400 feet, right?
Right.
Altitude. And there's 185,000 departures out there a year. So could you imagine what an increase in thrust does for them, for their revenue capabilities, right? Then you've got Bogota at 2,400 or 8,400 feet, 107,000 departures.
Mm-hmm.
So there's airports out there that can require this. And of course, Airbus always likes to satisfy LASA, and that's 11,500 feet.
Right.
Kind of the extreme of everything is both high and hot. Most of these airports we're talking about are both high and hot, Mexico, Salt Lake City. So I think this will give us a real advantage, so to speak, over the competition of being able to get payload out.
Absolutely. And when you look at how we're positioning ourselves against campaigns, we're starting to see retirements on the existing A319 fleet, which CFM actually has a bit of their own competitive advantage there, as well against the 737, 700, and 800. So the GTF Advantage is going to bring that as part of our campaigns as an additional benefit to our customers. Talk a little bit about intermix, right? So intermix is something that we were steadfast on in developing this engine as well. We wanted to make sure that we had the capability to put an Advantage engine on one side of the aircraft and a base engine on the other side of the aircraft. I mean, certainly, as I mentioned, the Advantage engine has the capability to go to 34,000 pounds of thrust. If that capability or any of the high, the 33GH ratings are required, you need to have two Advantage engines. But this does provide us with the flexibility as we think about field support, fleet support, managing the AOGs, which are, it's the situation that we have today. Having that interchangeability on the aircraft is important to us.
That'd be good. So that'll be very important. Now, as you mentioned all the alphabet soup that goes along with the names.
Yeah.
No offense on that. But so naming convention is there'll be an A in it, right? So it's an Advantage engine.
So it's actually a /2. So if you were to look at the type certificate, the model would be, say, a PW 1133G, right? The GTF Advantage is going to be a G/2. So it's a minor subtlety, same type certificate, but a different engine model with that nomenclature.
Okay, and H stands for high and hot.
High and hot, right?
And will you have, maybe we'll get into this later, will you still have D rates for climb, or are you just gonna go?
We do.
So
So we have the standard alternate climb, which is available on the base engine today. We've been working durability ratings, which we would call the Alt Climb C ratings for the base program, and we're looking at doing the same for the GTF Advantage, again, to support the interchangeability and intermixability for the engines.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so what is GTF Advantage? I guess the place to start is, in order to achieve the additional thrust and also to achieve better durability, it really starts with core flow, right? So we increase the size of the fan, increase the size of the LPC, and that enabled us to really cool the overall core of the engine. Now, as we talked a little bit about this being a development program, it's technically, this is a derivative program. Same center line as we have on the base program, but we made modifications to the flow path, right? So you can see across the various modules, we have improved aerodynamics, both in the compressor as well as in the high pressure turbine. We've introduced advanced coatings, some of the best coatings that we have for durability, erosion coatings, et cetera, corrosion coatings in the compressors, as well as looking at the high turbine technology, the best technology that we have in terms of active clearance control, advanced castings, and our coating capability.
And so a lot of new technologies, but these technologies have gone through the TRL testing sequence.
Absolutely.
To be tested in advance. And I know you're going to get into the development program a little bit later, which I think is pretty important.
Right. So when we talk about the evolution of our durability, I mean, certainly as part of GTF Advantage, we've been targeting increased time on wing. GTF Advantage compared to the base program today should provide us about 2x time on wing, right? And that's by virtue of the coolant changes that we've made, as well as the additional technologies that we've put into the high turbine. Some of those changes we've been able to read back directly into the existing configuration on the base program, which we call Block D. So changing some of our cooling hole patterns, optimizing our coatings in the turbine. We introduced that into the MRO in 2025, and we have that as part of our production configuration today as for the base program. I'll switch over to the right-hand side and just talk a little bit about GTF Advantage. So we talked about some of these benefits here. So doubling our time on wing, the increased thrust capability. We talked about interchangeability and intermixability. We started production of the GTF Advantage program. So we shipped our first engines to Airbus in the May timeframe. We've been working closely with Airbus for our entry into service, which we would say is imminent, and certainly by the end of the year with a launch customer for GTF Ed.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that I'll point out is, as we were going through this journey and as we were getting closer to the certification of GTF Advantage, we also saw the opportunity to address our durability issues on the base program, provide that additional improvement by what we're calling the Hot Section Plus program. So Hot Section Plus is essentially the GTFA turbine. It'll be an MRO configuration that can be incorporated at MRO as essentially as a retrofit. It provides essentially the same time on wing that you get for GTF Advantage. It's close to 2x, close to 95%. And we'll be looking at certifying that later this year in production corporation in early 2027.
Good, that's good, because that's important. It's nice that you've spent the money on developing this new engine. It's nice when you could put things downward, right?
Absolutely.
To help the current fleet you have. I know that when you take the Advantage in, you can never take today's, well, you could. You can never take today's gear turbofan and make it into an Advantage, right? Because it's economically not feasible.
Correct. And, one of the things that I mentioned earlier is with the LPC. The LPC is different. It's a larger diameter, right, to increase the core flow. So it does become a non-economical retrofit. But the turbine is something that we can certainly incorporate into the aftermarket.
That's great.
The other thing, we talk a little bit about the approach in terms of development programs. I think we learned a lot with the initial certification of the base program of the 1100. And as part of this, Pratt historically has had our integrated program deployment, IPD, as you call it. Through the introduction of Raytheon's lifecycle program management, we took some lessons learned from other business units and some of the best that we have from IPD as well. I would say that largely many of the key elements that we have through our development program in RLPM come from Pratt & Whitney's IPD process. And if you look at some of the key elements on our job ticket, the program mandates that we had for life limited parts, for manufacturing readiness, a lot of that came from our learnings on the base program. I say kudos to Jim Panito, who was along the 1100 program for the last 10 years. Having that vision to see what GTFA could truly be capable of, making sure that the organization was aligned through the mechanisms we have, like a job ticket, and also ensuring that we're reading back across the 30K program, the experience that we have into the program was very important to us.
I think the idea of having a set number of the life for the LOPs is just extraordinary, right? We had hoped to be there in the beginning, we never quite made it. But now you have a set level, which is about where we wanted to be, if I remember correctly, in the beginning of the program.
Yes.
For the high school and the low school. I think from an overhaul standpoint, it helps that. Now, I know our competition, just reading Aviation Week, et cetera, is starting to come up on their LLPs now at Southwest. So keep reading the magazines and we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. I mean, LLP lifing is, I would say for the GTFA program, was probably one of the largest accomplishments that our team had. I mean, and you mentioned it. I think many programs go into service with LLP shortfalls relative to their target life. That was true on the 1100 program. That was true on LEAP, and continually we chase life escalation. One of our program mandates in our job ticket was to come out of the box with fully capable LLPs, which we did. And that's a major investment. It's a major investment in engineering resources. It's a major investment when it comes to the telemetry tests that we needed to run in this program. And we ensured that we did that to be successful here.
That's good. I think it's a great accomplishment. When I read more about it, I found that to be probably one of the biggest in my mind. From a sales and marketing standpoint, that surely helps.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we keep saying that this is the first time in anybody's recollection that a program has come out with full life out of the box in at least 20 to 30 years. So there may be some programs that predate us. Perhaps it was a JT-AT, but certainly in recent memory, this is the first time that Pratt has achieved that
I
accomplishment.
guess I'm not sure if the 4000 made it in the beginning, but we used to have I always remembered that we always kind of had an agreement with the FAA that our systems, we could just analytically tell them what the life was, but that changed.
Right.
When we entered the GTF, and I think the FAA had just like better and different requirements.
That's right. That's right.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, so I think, just to summarize where we are before we get into some Q&A, I mean, this certainly is game changing. I think back to where we were in the initial certification program. Some of the choices that we made at the time and the performance that we saw of the engine certainly got us back into the game. This is game changing for us when we think about the volumes that we have in the future. The 8,000 engines that we have in backlog, once we hit full rate of production in 2028, will all be GTF Advantage.
That's good. And I think from a durability standpoint, I think the customers will appreciate that for sure. The fact that you can move down the high turbine durability fixes, I think, is a real plus. Do you know at all what our competition's doing? Have they answered the call here? I know they have a durability package out there supposedly. Have they answered the call on thrust at all?
They have not, right? They have some thrust bump ratings, but when we look at it from a competitive standpoint, I think the way that we've handled this with our GH ratings certainly gives us an edge.
Okay, that's good to know. And you talked about the reduced climb ratings. You'd still have them, but you have to care for the intermixability.
Mhm.
But if you have an Advantage engine, one engine on each wing, an Advantage engine on each wing, do you still have a D-rated climb, or do you have now a new climb rating that's like a C?
They would be consistent across, right? So going into service, we have slightly different software versions, but our next rev of the software is going to be common between the two.
Okay. All right, so next year, what's the big deal? It's going to be about production, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's about production now. And I guess to kind of bring this back to both the IPD process and our RLPM, another one of the key must-dos that we had in this program was manufacturing readiness, right? We learned quite a bit going into service in 2016 and 2017. And some people may remember images of engines out of the PDC without fan blades and some of the struggles that we had in a number of different parts. Ensuring that our organization, our program management team, our IPMT, was laser focused on manufacturing readiness. That was one thing that we needed to get right. I think as we've looked at the ramp that we have, we're recognizing that we are a high volume engine manufacturer, right? It's no longer good enough to be a boutique engine manufacturer that has the best technology. You can't fly engineering changes. You can't fly paper as I've been coached before, right? You can fly hardware. So you need to have hardware. So making hardware reliably with the right quality signature is important.
Yeah, I'm sure the onset of COVID didn't help the supply chain, obviously, and that didn't help production for us at all, or really anybody, including General Electric and CFM. We were all having issues. It seems like we're kind of clawing our way out of that a little bit now with supply chain. And when will this switch over be to when do you estimate the switch over to be when we would be producing nothing but Advantage engines?
2028 is when we'd have full cutover for GTF Advantage. So this was, this was intentional, the way that we decided to cut over the program. We want to start at essentially a low rate of production in the first 6 to 12 months, make sure that we're learning out our manufacturing processes. And as a result, we can have a very metered introduction and then ramp up into 2028.
Okay, well, that sounds like that makes sense. We have some lessons learned that we used from before. That's good. And just one more question on the durability testing. Did you go back to the military and also get information from them as to how they test their engines?
Well, I mean, we have a fairly rigorous test program on our side. On the military, as most people know, they have accelerated mission tests. We actually decided to run, which is the equivalent of an endurance test for commercial engines. We did run a mid-block between our two blocks, block 1 and block 2. We ran an accelerated mission test. Yeah, and kind of going back to the way that we set up our engine development program, our EDP, we ran it in 2 blocks. There was early development with a configuration that we started with. We then had our certification block, and in between the two, we were able to read in both field learning, endurance learning, as well as learning that we had in the development program.
Okay. Debbie, how much time do I have? I forgot my timer. Half an hour. Okay. So talk about that. So the hot section plus, when will that enter? You think not until next year?
Early 20s, or early 27. Yep.
Okay, that'll be good. Customers will definitely be waiting for that. Okay, so why don't we move on now to some questions? I think I've exhausted my list, so you're set.
Yeah.
Get to the Q&A. We'll be taking questions on the Q&A if you want to offer some up. We see we have 670 people. Really appreciate you.
It's pretty good.
Today. It's really great. I know Tim's a popular guy, so that must be it.
It's all the engine.
All right. Okay, once the GTF Advantage engine is in service, will PW be selling the baseline GTF, or are all future sales GTF-A only? And on the MRO side, will engine... Sorry. Why don't you answer the first part?
Yeah, so on the first part, for the 1100 program, all future sales will be GTF Advantage. In fact, I mean, if you're looking at future deliveries, we would expect that the campaigns that we're entering in today would certainly be past the 2028 timeframe.
GE mentioned CMCs. Are we leveraging those yet in tandem with the gear, or is that a future game changer?
I would say that's a future game changer for us, right? We're continuing to develop CMCs as part of our next program. It's not something that we currently have in the GTF or GTF family today.
But that is on our
Technology,
plan
correct,
in the future.
correct.
So maybe we'll see that in the next generation single aisle.
I would expect
I
so.
expect so. Once the GTF Advantage engine is in service, oh yeah, how about the MRO side? When will we start? So if you can't retrofit them, you can't do anything with that. And you hope these stay in service twice as long as the ones today, right?
Yep.
But you still have to ramp up your MRO to take care of the Advantage engine. Is there much difference in MRO for an Advantage engine versus today's engine?
There's not much difference, although I mean our MRO shops will need to go through the qualification and to make sure that we're provisioning for the eventful engine event that we have in the field. We need to make sure that we have the capability to work on these engines. So as part of our overall GTF network that we have existing today, we've selected a limited number of sites that would be the first MRO factories to work on the GTF Advantage. What I'd also say is because Hot Section Plus is something that we incorporate in the MRO, our MRO sites will already have that experience with the GTF Advantage high turbine. That's where the first point of incorporation will be. So we'd expect to see that experience be built up in the early days with Hot Section Plus incorporation.
So really, if you think about it, the supply chain and the high pressure turbines got to get moving, right? 'Cause
Absolutely.
you'll be supplying both the current engine and the Advantage engine, right?
Absolutely. Right. And I think, I mean, the overall volumes are what we have contemplated up until now. Certainly with the introduction of Hot Section Plus, the mix has changed.
Right.
But a lot of the investments that we've made for the GTF program, as an example, Asheville in North Carolina, right? The additional forging press that we're building up in Georgia, that capacity is going to help us on this incorporation for Hot Section Plus, as well as the capacity that we need for GTF Advantage.
That's good to know. Do we see this engine being used on future engine programs such as the future Boeing aircraft?
Well, I think, a lot of the discussions that we're having with airframers now are certainly around NGSA and our future programs. I think that's, fairly well publicly known that those conversations do happen, and we'll need to see what other opportunities our airframers bring towards us.
Yeah. I know you hear a lot, just recently there was a little battling going on between Boeing and Airbus on the start date. For single aisle. Airbus's claims are full steam ahead, and Boeing's just kind of, well, we're not hearing too much pull from our customer yet.
Yes.
So
I think
interesting to see how that really does shake out.
That's right. And I mean, our position is we'll follow the airframers, right? We want to be ready when those programs finally launch, but we'll follow their lead.
So we're getting technology programs in place, I would imagine.
Correct.
Like other Pratt Whitney engineers, I doubt the success to market and sell GE Open Fan. What is Pratt Whitney's position on the GE Open Fan, and are there plans beyond GTFA?
Okay. Well, I think, to start, I mean, I think it's fairly well known that our position is that we're all in on a ducted fan. I think the next generation of single aisle engine will be a geared architecture, just like we have today. Perhaps we incorporate additional technologies, but ducted fan is the way that Pratt & Whitney is taking it.
And I think if you listen to Airbus a little bit, you read between the lines, I think they're hoping that maybe GE will put a duct around their unducted prop.
Yeah.
Right now. And I don't know if anyone out of here, we did do work back in 1980.
There used to be one in here.
There used to be one in the museum here, but I think it's not put in the back. But anyways, we did unducted prop studies for a number of years, and we found the same reasons we're not doing them today. Back then, they're loud, right? The noise treatment was very hard because you have no noise treatment, as a matter of fact. When you duct them, at least you get a chance at some noise treatment. And they weren't good in fuel consumption. They were noisy, and they were pretty complex at the time. And of course, there's always that issue of blade release coming directly out and hitting the fuselage.
Right.
So there's things that need to be worked on. Not saying it can't be a concept that can work someday, but just follow the press a little bit on this one. Maybe we'll hear something in Farnborough.
We'll see.
Are we standing up new casting houses to offset the challenge in procuring GTFA castings that we are experiencing?
No, it's a great question. I think, we're continuing to work with the existing casting suppliers we have today. I mean, in fact, for GTF Advantage, we've certainly qualified our first because we're in production. We're working to qualify an additional 3. And then, as I think we've also talked about, we have our Asheville facility, which also our advanced casting foundry is an area that we're looking to invest in.
Yeah. So that allows us to, what does that do to our suppliers? Because there's really 2 suppliers, right, of hot section materials.
Yeah, there's several.
Chromalloy, maybe, I guess.
Yeah, I guess the standard that you would see would be like a Howmet PCC, CPP, et cetera. It does provide us additional insight. As I think you probably remember, Jim, back in the 70s and 80s, like we actually were actively involved in casting technology.
Right here in East Oak.
That's right, exactly, right? So I think, strategically for us, having a solid understanding of the of casting technology is important.
It is important. The question from Angela is the aftermarket supply chain for Whitney Collins and other vendors prepared to step up and meet the demand with the retrofit programs being close to introduction?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Certainly there's been pressure on the supply chain for the last several years. I think as part of our incorporation for Hot Section Plus, as I mentioned before, it's certainly not enough just to have the configuration available. We need to be able to produce it and incorporate it as quickly as possible. And everybody's kind of heard of some of the issues that we've had with AOGs and the ramp, as you mentioned, through the supply chain. What I will mention is that since 2019, our production, which is OEM production, has actually increased by 50%. Right. So you think about the number of OEM engines that we're making pre-COVID, we've since surpassed that and we're now up 50%. That's a remarkable number. The other remarkable number is our aftermarket network. Since that same time in 2019, we've increased our output over 300%, not 30. So 3x the amount of output that we did in 2019. Right. So when we talk about the investment that we've made in our MRO footprint, both our brick and mortar factories that we have within Pratt and Whitney, with our partners and with other service providers, along with supply chain, it's truly remarkable, which has enabled us to reduce the number of AOGs on the existing fleet today.
Right. So those are coming down as time goes on. And here's the question: is there a launch customer for the GTFA?
There is, and I can't tell you.
Oh, sign up. I was going to answer that for you, but you did it better than I would have. Or maybe you can just stay tuned for Farm Bureau. How's that? Tim, can you talk about the customers are reacting for Internet EIS? Is there relief, excitement? Love to see you on the field chart.
Yeah, BK. There's a lot of excitement. I think, there's certainly our customers have been through us through some of the darkest days that we had with our AOG situation. The feedback that I get from customers now is that we're committed and we're doing the right thing. Are we completely satisfying their needs? No, certainly not. We still have several hundred AOGs today, but it's also down several hundred from where it was at the peak back in the middle of 2025. GTF Advantage and Hot Section Plus, given the interval improvement, the time on wing improvement that we'll see, there's certainly a level of excitement about it. Every single customer that we speak to right now wants GTFA. Certainly there's going to be limitations in terms of how we bring this in through our Airbus delivery stream, but that excitement is certainly there, and it's helping us with our campaigns, and see you on the field for sure. So rumor has it that a small cadre of people, the day that we got the type certificate, bumped into our competitor's field services team. They were certainly congratulatory, and all we could muster up was, "We'll see you on the field."
Oh, that's back up.
We'll see you on the field.
I'm glad we got a little bit of action there.
Yeah.
I want things to slow down. Okay, so in the future, let me give this question down. I can see it. Start. In the future, mostly in the single aisle, or do you think Pratt Whitney might be looking at a larger aircraft in the greater than 7,000 pound thrust class with the GTF technology soon?
Yeah, I wouldn't rule it out. I think a lot of the focus is, as you mentioned, Jim, the discussions we're seeing out in the media through our airframers is focused on next gen single aisle, right? I think that's what they're looking towards next. Sizing of that aircraft, I think the comment here is up to 70,000 pounds. Next gen single aisle is not that size engine, but you never know. I mean, certainly as airframers look at their future market potential, I'm sure they'll come to us, and they believe in the architecture that we have in the gear, right? We've accumulated over 50 million hours worth of service in the first 10 years alone.
So,
By the time we enter into service, it can conceivably on NGSA mid 2030s, if it happens then, we'll have over 300 million hours of experience on GTF platforms.
I think that just me talking, and it's just like, this is going to be the architecture of the future. Rolls-Royce didn't want to do it, but now they're in it.
Ultrafan.
Ultrafan, right?
Yep.
And now they're downsizing it to 30K because they think that's where the market is. GE, on the other hand, is trying to stick with this unducted fan. We'll see how long that lasts.
Mhm.
Maybe in the background they're working on a gear, or they'll just put a duct over it and call it whatever, something special. So we'll see where this all goes. I think it's going to be an interesting few years to see how everyone, and really what Boeing does, right? Because Boeing it seemed to me, waffling between single aisle and this
Middle of market. Yeah.
And when I was still working here, the middle of the market airplane required something around 60 to 70,000 pounds of thrust,
Mhm.
because it was going to be a twin aisle, 757, basically.
Right.
So that's a little bit bigger, but they thought that's where the whole the market was. We'll see where it ends up.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean,
the geared turbofan is scalable to a lot of different sizes.
right. And I mean, you've also seen, I mean, certainly for Airbus, or the A320neo, we have XLR, right? And the XLR platform is starting to grow, and it's slowly creeping into that smaller 757 type of market, right? So see where it goes.
Does the GTF Advantage plan look ahead and feed future green aviation strategies? Talking about hydrogen, biofuel, electrification, etc.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, as we were going through the development program, when you call it sustainable aviation fuels, I mean, we tested our engine on sustainable aviation fuels, and GTF Advantage is capable of that.
Mhm.
If and when airports and the infrastructure allows that to be something that's widely available. And, certainly looking at future platforms and some of the studies we have, I mean, a hybrid electric is certainly something that's top of mind for us.
Yeah, sure it is. And of course, you do test the engines now with 100% SAF.
That's right.
That's kind of standard, I would say, procedure these days.
Yes, it is.
So, and I know our competition does too, but it's something else. Okay, I think maybe I've emptied all the questions. See where we are. I don't want to miss anyone's questions. I didn't have to throw any out today, so that's good. No,
Yeah, they were
very friendly.
they were friendly.
Oh, look at the chat. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. Those are the ones that people. Oh, okay. GTF is about 1% better than the base in TSFC. I guess, I don't know if that's a question.
But I mean, you have your view on what's measurable in terms of TSFC. So Jim, as an outsider, what's your view on TSFC?
I was glad to see that you didn't lose any performance in the Advantage, put it that way. Being a performance engineer, I'm always a little clouded. But 1% is hard to find in an engine.
Mhm.
But the fact is that you're not
Hard to measure.
hurting. You're just not hurting the performance of the engine.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing. Because usually when you do, in my opinion, when we do durability fixes, there's always something, because nothing's free.
They're always trades. Systems engineering.
Right.
They're always trades.
Just trades for it. So I was just so glad to see that there was some hope. I'm sure there is.
Oh, there's a question here about update on engine reliability and what fixes are implemented. I'd say, again, kind of relying on the field experience that we had from all of our GTF programs, the 1100, 1500, and 1900. There was certainly reading those fixes back into the GTF Advantage program. The top removal drivers that we have today are being addressed, and in fact, we've been able to incorporate, so like as an example, the improved dry face seal on the number 3 compartment, which is one of the fixes that we have available today on the base program, was actually essentially certified as part of GTF Advantage. So having that cross-pollination, there was certainly opportunities for us there.
Are we seeing any operators delaying current orders of base engines because they want to wait for a GTFA instead?
No, we're not seeing that. I mean, I think sometimes as you know, as operators are seeing configurations on the flight line, there may be some discussions about which aircraft they take. But at this point, no, there are no public delays, no stated delays.
Yeah. So I'm sure when the salespeople go out there, they talk about the Advantage engine because that's really that's the future.
It is. Yep, that's right. Yeah, and you know, certainly with existing customers, we do need to talk about how we're supporting the active fleet today, whether it be through our standard retrofits that we have on our removal drivers or Hot Section Plus incorporation. You know, certainly those questions come up.
Okay, so that's really the end of the questions. Just one more here about Denver. I've been in Denver on a hot day trying to take off, many delays had to do to engine performance. Glad GTF helps fixing that. There you go.
They're hot and high.
So when you leave Denver the next time, George, why?
Bring an extra bag.
Your turbofan and
yeah, bring an extra bag. Yeah, the airplane can take it.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today. We greatly appreciate it. Thanks, Tim, for taking out time.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
I know that you'll be going off to Farnborough. That's good and bad.
Yeah.
It's always fun to be there.
Nothing comes for free.
It's enjoyable.
Right.
It's enjoyable, but it's a long day for everybody. Right.
Well, thanks, Jim. And, you know, I'll also say, you know, to the team at Pratt Whitney, both those who are currently working and those who have also retired. I mean, just the passion that we have around these programs is phenomenal, right? We only certify new engine programs essentially once a decade. So to be part of a development program like this for all of you who have been on this program is just, you know, certainly that's a privilege. I think at one point I actually looked back to see how many people had participated on GTF Advantage. Close to 5,000 people since we launched, right? So, and it's engineers, it's mechanics, it's material specialists, operations. It spans the entire company. So this really was a contribution by everybody, and we'll see you on the field.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much, Tim, for joining us today.
All right. Thanks, Jim.
Good seeing you.
You too.